Let me give you some tips on how to talk to your prospective CPS attorney or even your CPS attorney when you speak to them in person or on the phone. The first thing you want to tell them is not a story of your case. Do not tell them that. Put a fence around the story of your case before you tell the story. Be ready to tell the attorney the posture of the case, where you're at in the case, the next court hearing, and what type of hearing it is. And then, if he or she has the time, you can tell the story of the case. A lot of times, the story has no impact on the different phases of the case. I know that sounds strange, but each phase in a CPS case is different from the previous phase. So what happened 2 phases ago may not be relevant now. Call me, 888-888-6582.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host, and here we are to fight CPS. And I'm very happy that you've joined me and found me. You found me on Facebook, Fight CPS, and you've come to this room. And I'm glad that you're here because I give you a warm welcome about your CPS matter. I, too, was a victim of CPS. I, too, had my children wrongfully taken from me. They were trafficked, which is illegal, but CPS seems to do away with it. Now, the video you just saw was my attorney, Vincent W. Davis. He is a trial attorney. He is an expert in juvenile law, family law, and detention law. Detention hearing, which you had, or a dependency court is what it's called, or family court. Anyway, he has 39 years of experience, and he has fought CPS and gotten the children back. In fact, he's all done civil lawsuits. And that being the case, he's won millions of dollars where he's won in both state courts and also at the federal level. And so this show is all about helping you deal with an agency, a government agency that in a lot of places have gone rogue. Now, I'm not saying all CPS is bad or all CPS social workers are bad, but my experience and the experience of over 900 of you have shown it to be the case. You all have something common. You are down and out, and they take advantage of you by giving you a court-appointed attorney because you can't afford one. And that is the mistake that all of us make. I did it. And I know that all these other people do the same thing. They can't afford it. They try to attack people that are down and out, like lost a job. In my case, I had lost my job. And so I was struggling financially. And so all of you out there maybe have other reasons what they ever do. And they also, these rogue agencies, I'm calling the rogue, it's actually CP stands for the Child Protection Systems. There's a system in every county, in every state, and in every country. And yes, I mean countries, because I have 21 countries that have participated in here, from Indonesia to Bangladesh to India to Saudi Arabia to Libya to over to Africa to Liberia to Sudan, who's my most recent one, and then Rwanda, and then Mozambique, and then the 4 provinces of South Africa, then up to Europe, England, Scotland, Wales, and Denmark and Sweden, across the pond to North America, to Canada, 4 provinces there, the United States, all 50 states, and then we have the District of Columbia, then south the border we have Mexico, and then Grenada in South America, then across Pacific to New Zealand, and up to Australia, 2 states there in Australia. So I have had many people, these over 900 people have told me and shared, and a lot of them become my family. I have roughly 25 to 50 people that are regulars in my room that show up every day to help one another, to help you all by sharing what they did and experienced, because you're going to have a trouble with these rogue CPS. These rogue CPS are a mixture in every state and every county. Now, I have had representation from all the states, and I've had several people from certain states from different counties. And I find out that whether you're in Michigan or in Pennsylvania or Virginia or Texas, Oklahoma, whatever it may be, there is a rogue agency. Now, what I mean by rogue, it's the government agency that's supposed to protect our children. It's social services, and they have a branch, the CPS system, and they have different names like Child Protection Services, Department of Children and Family Services, Department of Children's Services, the Cabinet, etc. But anyway, the child protection systems that I've been involved with, and all of you listeners that come in here, have been very bad. They're not transparent. They don't talk. They don't really help. The money frees slowly. There's no accountability for them. And they don't do family reunification. Family reunification was put by the wayside. It was put by the wayside. And so it okay. Um, so anyway, again, it's a warm welcome, and I'm glad that you're here. Now, we have different formats and so forth. I talk about what you can do in this room. There's many ways you interact. There's 4 things that you can. The first step is by being in this room, you can take notes and um, listen, and also send me emojis, thumbs up, smiley faces, hearts. You can also send me stars. And then to follow my program, please check below to follow my podcast. And then if you want to be notified when I'm going to be on, please check the notification button. That's all you have to do there. Now, I have 7 rooms that filter into here. They're Facebook rooms. The problem with that is that when you're in those rooms, you can't really, your comments can be heard here. I can see them, but not everybody else can. Only the YouTube ones. I have one YouTube room here. Now, the rooms I have are Juvenile Dependency, Fight CPS with Me, which is the room you're in now, Relatives Fight CPS, Fight CPS with Bob Pace, The Secret How to Win with CPS, Fight CPS Real Talk with Mrs. G, The Law Offices of Vincent W. Davis and Associates, and the reality series The Horror Stories. Now, the YouTube one is CPS Defense Strategy Consultant Vince. So that one, you can see the comments all the time there, but the Facebook ones I have to put on the screen. So that's not a problem. But one other thing you can do, second thing is you can text me a message. You can text me a message. You can text me a message. So To text a message to me, all you have to do is show me your first name and then the city or the county where your case was. And you um uh oh, also please show the state, and if you're from another country, please show your country. And try to be as complete as you can about your case. Try to tell all about it. Now, a second way of interacting with this podcast, hold on a second here. I'm still having trouble with my computer, so it tends to bounce around. I have guests on my podcast. I have up to 9 guests, and I'd love to have you as my guest on the podcast because that way you can talk about your case and help others. Also, being a guest, I can take 9 of you. If you call in, I can only talk to 1 of you. So if you're a guest, I can talk to all 9 of you. With me makes 10. All you need to do is reach my producer, Grace. Now, Grace is my show producer, and she does a lot of things that make this show productive and helps me out. So I want to thank Grace for all of her hard work that she does. Now, you could pick one of my 14 shows. Now, typically I'm on at 8 o'clock and every day, except the weekends. The weekends I come on. Oh, I need to correct that. Sorry. I'm on every day at 10 o'clock. The weekends I come on at 8 o'clock. This weekend, Saturday, I told everybody last night that I'd be on at 10. So I'm glad I did because this morning I forgot to come on at 8. So on the weekends, I try to come on at 8 o'clock. That's my weekends at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for 1 hour. Now, my evening shows are at 7 p.m. for 1 hour. And that is Pacific time. I'm here on the California coast. I broadcast from my home. That's my studio. And there are I'm at Surf City, USA, 3 blocks from the beach. So to be a guest, you just send an email to Grace at vincentwdavis.com. Grace at vincentwdavis.com. And so it is a really hard thing to sometimes talk and be on the show, but I'd love to have you. I love to have you. Now, the fourth way to interact with this podcast is to call in. My number's up. That means I'm live, 626-698-990. Now, with that number up there, that means you can call in. I use Vonage, the StreamYard I use Vonage, the phone application for making phone calls. And the Vonage is a streaming program that's done on the internet. So that's how our phones are handled. So that's my work number, 626-698-0990. And you can call in and you'll be connected right to my phone, and I'll turn my speaker on, and that way you'll be able to talk to me and talk to the audience. They will hear you, they won't see you. See, if you're a guest on my show, they'll see you with the video camera. That's the difference between phone calling in and being a guest. Also, with a phone call, I can only talk to 1 of you at a time. If you're a guest, I can talk to 9 of you. So that is. Also, when you're making a phone call or you're a guest, you qualify for a free 15-minute session with Vincent W. Davis. You qualify for a free 15-minute session with Vincent W. Davis. He'll talk to you on a Zoom meeting for 15 minutes for no charge. All you have to do is be a guest on my podcast or call in. So I'm going to leave the number up there for a while. Sometimes a lot of people come in, sometimes a lot of people don't. So um, I really know and understand what you feel and what you're going through. It's a very complex CPS is. I'm talking about the rogue CPSs. You know, as I told you, it's a government agency, and it's mandated by Congress. Congress has told Social Services to create this entity, and the child protection system is supposed to um, investigate allegations of child abuse or neglect. Now, these allegations of child abuse or neglect are made by lay people and professional. The professional people that deal with children all the time, doctors, uh, you know, teachers, principals, counselors, police, anybody that deals with children. And they go actually take a special class in how to report child abuse or child neglect and what to look for and how to report it in so they can call it in. Now, the other kind of person I'm talking about is lay people. These lay people are like your relatives, your family, your friends, those kinds of individuals, a neighbor or whatever it is. The only problem is about 50% of the lay people have um, alternative motives for using CPS to help them to gain their ways with either trying to alienate the children from the spouse or they retaliate against a neighbor whose dog's barking, or maybe the yard is overgrowing their yard. And it's wrong. It's bad because the lay people have not been told or taught how to recognize child abuse or child neglect. The sad part is that CPS automatically thinks you're guilty. When they investigate the case and they're determined to see if it's true, but for the time being, they do believe it's true, so they treat you guilty. That's different than any other court of law. Other court of laws, you're innocent till you're proven guilty. Also, in this court of law, it's handled in dependency court, family court. And in the dependency family court, the judge and the bailiff and the clerk and the social workers, attorneys, and the court appointed attorneys for your children yourselves are all friends and pals. You know, I'm not saying all courtrooms are like that, but a lot of them are. And they work for CPS. CPS pays them. So I don't know if you'll get a fair trial. It should be a jury trial. I think anytime that you're involved in CPS, it's a serious matter. And I think your peers are the best people to judge whether you're guilty or not. It isn't a social worker. It isn't a judge or whatever it is. It's no fairness. Now you have to be careful because they're going to try to come to your home and talk to you. And my rule number 3 says you do not talk to social workers or the police. You don't let them in. And the reason is because they're going to use anything you say against you. And if you let them in your home may not be prepared for them because it may be messy, it may not be clean, or whatever the case may be. Also, in this investigation, if you do contact them, just be polite with them, but tell them you need to have your attorney present. It's your constitutional right to have an attorney present for all legal matters. This is a legal matter. And so you can stall the time a little bit to go out and get an attorney if you don't have one. But if you have one, Then what you do is you can set up a time with them to meet them. You don't want to meet them in your home, and you certainly don't want to meet them at their office. You're going to have to go pretty much with what your attorney tells you to do. There's nothing wrong with meeting at Starbucks or McDonald's in a private part of the place and talk about your case. It should be a settlement conference, meaning there should be a plan drawn up between you and the social workers of CPS, and that should outlay what parenting classes you may have to take, also what programs you may have to be involved in. Now, what I mean by programs, they're like the drug rehab, the alcohol rehab, etc., domestic violence. Those are programs, and typically they last a year. Now, your parenting classes may be a month long or 2 months long, but they're specific to parenting skills that they may want you to take. And as I say, there's nothing wrong with doing all that. It's just time is important. But they should not take your children. They seem to right away take your children as soon as the investigation starts, whether they're in danger or not. Now, a child should not be moved into they're in danger. So, like domestic violence, or the child is being threatened, they will have to remove the child, or the home is so deplorable, or things like that. There's going to be a time that they want to inspect your home. That's when you have your attorney present. They will make a judgment on that. But they also can do something called the use of a warrant. This warrant is a legal document signed by a judge, and it's signed in such a way that they put a stamp to the signature that raises the letters on the paper. And the warrant should be done on a work day, not a holiday or a weekend. There's no court on the weekend, and there is no court on weekday holidays. So that's another thing you need to check. Also, should be addressed to whoever the person that has done the negligence or the abuse. And the negligent abuse should be listed on that paper. Also, the children should be listed on that paper. It should give a date and a time that they can do the inspection or come to your home, and have specific instructions whether they need to remove your child or not. That's what a warrant is supposed to look like. It's not a PDF file. It's not on a computer, stuff like that. You have to be careful, because the bad or the rogue CPS systems out there are doing nothing but bad. They're in there for the money. It's all about money. It's $1 trillion business that they make, and it's unaccounted for. There's no directors or supervisors, and there should be. And so it's orchestrated by social services, where they control the court, the judges, and everything else. Now, besides this settlement meeting, they should provide a service called a safety plan. This is a plan that outlines you let me get a drink of water here. So the settlement meeting, the service that provide is a safety plan, which may involve home monitoring, supervision. And if the children are in danger, they will remove the children. And sadly, they should be put in with family members, but a lot of times they put them with foster care. And not all foster care is good out there. Now, I do have a person that is a regular on my show that does foster care. And her name is Betty Jo, and she's from the state of Montana. and she's usually on every day. And so um, Betty Joe is a foster mom. In fact, she's so good, she's not interested in adopting any children. And several weeks ago, there was a terrible accident that a mother and father were killed and left a 4-year-old boy with no mother and father. So the social workers gave her the child, and she's been caring for the child until a family member can adopt him. So there's a happy ending to that story. I know lose your mother and father is a pretty tragic thing. So there is happiness if he gets adopted right. But she's an excellent foster care. She's been trained and she's been formalized and everything else. But a lot of the foster cares and the rogue CPS systems, the child protection systems, have become really, really, really bad. Um, uh, they're not transparent. You have to understand that they can't be trusted. They cannot be trusted. Also, besides um, this, they're supposed to do what's called family reunification. Family reunification. That's where the parents go through things to better themselves, and they should um, um, do everything effort because the best parents are the biological parents. So there should be reunification. Now, another service they're supposed to provide, or several services, are food, shelter, clothing, transportation, education for the children, and also the education for the parents and involving parenting classes, and then medical insurance for both the children and the family, the father and the mother, and then get a job. Those are the services. A lot of times they don't seem to do that, but they're a part of social services, and you're supposed to have, this food and shelter and clothing and transportation and education and um, medical and a job. So that is really, really important there. So those are the services, and this settlement conference should be a way to put the kids, if they have to remove them, into a relative's home. You do want to use the foster care as a last resort. Also, you need to have an attorney, and if you don't have one, when you first are contacted by CPS, you should ask that you're going to have your attorney present before you have that meeting. So I've talked about where to meet and how to set it up. Now, I am talking something called a lawyer. Now, this lawyer is a very important part of your CPS case. It's probably the number one part. And good morning, Jan. My son Marky passed away in the CPS system 1 month ago. I am so sorry to hear about that, Jan. And where are you located, Jan? Where are you located? And could you tell me what happened, Jan? I'd love to share the story with our listeners. So it is hard to lose. You're the second person I've heard that lost their son. I had another lady actually I've had two other ladies. One lady had their son placed in the hands of CPS, and CPS did an outing with all the children taken care of, and her child, who was barely could walk, I think the child was 4 months old, and the child was placed in one of those pits with those styrofoam balls, and the kids jumping around suffocated the child, killed the child, and the mother's distraught because that's how it was killed. Another mother, who's from one of my countries, called in from South Africa, country code 27, and said that CPS was doing an outing with the children or by a lake, and the child was taken by an alligator in the lake, or a crocodile. I think it's probably a crocodile. These alligators are in North America, and this is Africa. So a crocodile dragged the child and, of course, disappeared and ate him. So it is really, really, really kind of difficult to understand the loss of a child in CPS's hands because you think you trust them. And I'm so sorry, Jan. You're the third person I've talked to that's lost a child in CPS's custody. Now, I've been talking since October 2023. That's over 16 months. So that's a long time. As I say, I talked to many of you who have shared stories about it. And I know what the feeling is. You trust CPS, but forewarn, the rogue CPS systems you can't trust. The rogue CPS systems that do it all just for money are not transparent. And that's what I was saying. You need this attorney because the attorney is the only one that's going to stop this. And I don't mean a court-appointed attorney. If that's all you can do is a court-appointed attorney, then that's the best you can do. If you want to do pro se, where you defend it yourself, that's the best you can do. I know about money because in my case, I couldn't afford an attorney. I didn't think about an attorney because I didn't know anything about CPS. And when I did, I met with an attorney and I had to sell my home on a quick sale to get the money to hire this attorney. That attorney was Vincent Davis, the one that just spoke earlier in my part of my podcast. And he has won civil lawsuits against CPS. He's fought them both in state and federal court and won them. So he is that kind of attorney that's good. So I went and hired him. I'm glad I did because I am a father, a loving husband, and I have 6 children. 3 are grown up and 3 are young. The grown-up ones weren't involved, but my 3 ones were stolen from us. They weren't legally taken. They were stolen because we gave them permission because we thought if they do, they're supposed to give them up. Just like letting them in the home, we give permission. You have to think now, anytime you're involved in CPS, you want to have an attorney present. There are so many cases that come in here and say, Bob, you're right. We got an attorney, we got our kids back. We got an attorney to get our kids back. Now, Jan further says, I'm located in San Bernardino County. Yes, that's one of the counties near mine. That's one of the counties that Vincent Davis fights in. There is Orange County, LA County, San Bernardino County, and Riverside County. The 4 counties are pretty close around the city of Los Angeles. And so with this attorney, you'll be able to fight them. Fighting CPS, the rogue CPS, I'm going to start calling it rogue CPS because I don't think all CPS systems are bad. But the rogue CPS systems, the child protection systems, to fight them is like doing open heart surgery. Are you, as a layperson, going to open your body cavity, take your heart out, and work on your heart? No, you're going to have a professional doctor do it. The same goes with fighting CPS. You need a professional attorney. And when the attorney that I have, Vincent Davis, I want to thank him. He's a good attorney. He's someone I recommend, and it's highly spoken of. And he does win cases back. In fact, there was during the week, he does a podcast called Office Hours. And a lady called in and said that she had a friend who's a social worker. And they say that the CPS systems there use Vincent Davis as a model of how to fight attorneys because Mr. Davis does win cases back. They gave him high regards and high marks because he is that kind of attorney. He once was a foster care youth himself, so he knows about the foster care system and how bad the foster care system is. And so I realize what you go through. Um, let me Jan says her son was in a foster home in Victorville. Now, wait a minute. Why is your son in Victorville when San Bernardino County is south? Victorville is up by Santa Cruz, by San Francisco. Why was your son taken to Victorville instead of placed with a family member? Why was he placed in foster care? He was neglected and left alone on a bed for 4 hours. By the time they went to check on him, he was blue and passed away. That is so sad. I don't know how old he was, but he probably was a little infant or something, Jan. That is a tragic story. And you would have a lawsuit against CPS, a civil lawsuit. I know money's not going to bring back his life, but I imagine you suffered a lot of expenses because of CPS. And you should look into that. You could talk to Mr. Davis. We're talking about attorneys. He does civil lawsuits, and especially against CPS. He's won millions of dollars from CPS. So he's a good candidate for you to check him out. And all you have to do, by the way, is to be on my guest on my show or call in, and you can talk to him for free for 15 minutes. Or if you want to talk to him longer, there is a program I have. I need to put it up. I thought I'd put it up, but I forgot to. You can book a Zoom private consultation with Mr. Davis for 30 minutes. The fee for 30 minutes is $60. So I would like you to go to that website. I encourage you to, and all you have to do is to put your credit card info in there. They'll get charged $60, but you can talk for 30 minutes. So that's the second way you can talk to Mr. Davis. Or if you want to call in, I have my number of his office posted on the screen. It's 888-888-6582. And with that number, you were directed to the office of Vincent W. Davis. And when you talk to him, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. Bob Pace sent you. And all you have to do is talk to Vincent Davis, and he'll tell you how much his retainer is for the lawsuit. But he's really good at doing that. So there's an attorney. But that's wrong what they did. And you should also make public of what the San Bernardino CPS system did. That is wrong. That is wrong. And I think they should be accountable for their actions. So hopefully, how old was your child? How old was your child? Um, how old was your child? Because I don't know the details of Found Blue, but that's a horrific thing. You have a case of CPS. Also, what was your case in CPS about? Why was the child taken from you? And then um, why was he placed up in Victorville? Why was he placed up in Victorville? Um, 2 months old. Wow, 2 months old. So, if you'd like to share a little bit about your case, it'd be great. If you want to call in and talk about it, it's great. I'd love to hear you. Sometimes talking about things helps. You have to be compassionate, and my heart reaches out to you. Um, I lost a child too to CPS. It was different than your case. My child was 12 years old. Three of my children were wrongfully taken from me. They were not endangered. And anyway, the social worker was not educated, meaning she didn't have a high school degree, let alone a college degree. I think all social workers should have a degree in social work, and then they should have a minor in clinical psychiatry. Then they also should have a master's at least if they're going to work in social work. I think they need to be well trained because it is a very serious field to protect our children. It's very, very, very serious. And I don't think that that social workers should be allowed to go free and rampant there. There should be a board of directors or supervisors that watchdogs over the agency. But anyway, this social worker of mine, in my case, was caught committing perjury. Vincent Davis, I had hired him. The way I hired him is I sold my home in a quick sale. And with that money, I was able to retain him. And I'm glad I did because he helped me get back my other two children, my two boys. I have two boys, two girls there. Total is 6 children, 3 boys, 3 girls, and I have 3 older ones. They have families of their own, so they've not been involved. But my 3 young children were. They were 9, 12, and 15, all taken, interrupted their schooling, and it was really, 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 really bad. It was really, really, really bad. And so I um, was going through the process of having my wife's sister and husband. And by the way, how my case was, I had 5 years of harassment by CPS. I found out later it was lay people that had called in complaining untruths, and I disproved it for 5 years. But they finally got tired of the allegations coming in and called the police. The police followed me, and then when they tracked me down, they stopped me and they demanded me to come to my home. I did not know about a warrant. I did not know about not opening my home. I didn't even know about not taking my children unless they had a warrant. So, um, anyway, um, I should have told them, "You're not entering my home. I'm going to go see my attorney," and took my son with me who's in towed. But they went over their bounds. They went to the school and took my 2 other children from school, right from school, with no warrant. And the school released them. And so I should have known better and got an attorney. That was my mistake. That's the number one mistake everybody makes, is not getting an attorney. And a lot of reasons is they can't afford an attorney. And I know that's hard. I know that is hard with the money situation. Now, Jan says the allegation was made by my family member stating he was at risk for being raped by his own dad. Oh, that's so terrible. You know, that's a lay person. Lay people sometimes are really bad. And I don't know why they were doing that or saying that, but that was bad. And I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. And so that was bad. That was bad. Now, in my case, my attorney, Vincent Davis, was questioned as a social worker in court underneath oath. And my wife's sister and husband were trying to get adopt my daughter, our daughter. Now, I've been married for 41, well, I have 41 years of marriage experience. And as I say, I've raised the 6 children. But what was so bad was these lay people, because the people that originally were complaining for 5 years were my in-laws, my wife's mother and father, 3 sisters, and a brother. And they were calling in once a week for 5 years with false allegations. I disproved it. But what my mistake was is that I followed the direction of the policeman, came home, and I had my young son in towed. And at my home were 5 firemen, 2 code enforcement, 3 social workers, 2 uniformed policemen, and of course the detective. And I should have told them that it's great to meet you all. It's great to talk to you all. But unless you have a warrant, I'm leaving to go get my attorney and discuss the matter with him. And that's what I should have done. I did not know that, and I wish I could do my life over again. But these are mistakes that I'm passing on to all my listeners out there. Get yourself an attorney. Now, in my case in court about the adoption of my daughter, Vincent Davis, my attorney, asked the social worker, what kind of parents are these? My wife's sister and husband. And social worker said they're beautiful parents. They're loving and caring to be a good match to take care of our daughter. Then he went into his briefcase and took out a folder that was quite thick. And in it were reports from the police about domestic violence. So he asked the social worker, was there any domestic violence? Oh, no, there's no domestic violence. Then he opened up his folder and started reading the reports one after another. And they were very heavy domestic violence. They were physical domestic violence. And that's not the environment you want your child in. So Mr. Davis proved his point that she was lying. She committed perjury, and that my wife's sister and husband were not good candidates to adopt her daughter. We didn't want that to be that way. We didn't want her family interfering with our lives. And they were, because from the start of our marriage 31 years ago, they were never supportive. They never showed up for a wedding. Even her sister, who lived in the same state, didn't show up. So I'm telling you that social workers can't be trusted. But not only did she commit perjury and lied about it, she retaliated. This is the bad thing about uneducated, untrained social workers. They retaliated. And when they retaliated, she said to our daughter, well, first she said to us as parents, because what you did to embarrass me in court, you will never see your daughter again. This came from a social worker. I wish I had a tape recording of that, because that was wrong. So what she did, she met with our daughter, and she encouraged her daughter to emancipate. That means divorce her mom, her dad, her 2 brothers, her 3 brothers, her 2 sisters, and her grandparents, both sets, and her aunts and uncles and cousins. Everybody. She divorced us because at 12 in California, you can emancipate from your parents with no strong reason, which I think is wrong. I don't think any child should have that capability. There should be a good, sound reason, and it should be done through court. There should be, again, a jury trial. It should be a court matter. That's the problem. Our courtrooms are structured wrong. In CPS cases, there should be a jury trial. And the judges are elected by the people, but the people aren't doing a very good job because these judges are not qualified. These judges' background are terrible. Mine was all about damage complaints and car injuries and those kinds of things, and nothing about reunification or families or anything there. So I want you all to keep this in mind. But this bad thing was she was doing to it. And this goes back to Jan, who lost her 4-month-old son in the hands of CPS. I lost our daughter in the hands of CPS by a very corrupt social worker who encouraged her to change her name. She had a beautiful name. Her middle name was Hanalei, and it was named after a beautiful place in Kauai called Hanalei. She also was told to seal her birth certificate. She did that. She got a new birth certificate and listed her adopted family as her mother and father. So she had divorced her parents, emancipated, and now she changed her name, and now she had a new birth certificate. She also got a second Social Security card and was double dipping. And I don't know how she did this, but she was taking funds from my Social Security twice. I had arranged at the time that she was living with me to get additional aid because I was over the age of 60. If you're over the age of 60, and I'm 75 now, at that time I was 60, you can get assistance by getting some of your Social Security released for you to help out raising children. Any person that has a child over the age of 60 gets additional help from Social Security. So she had a second Social Security card and was double dipping. It was about $2,000 a month that she was getting free, but the money wasn't going to her. It was going to her adopted parents who were using it for other things. I know they weren't paying it on her because what I gathered, she didn't have the things that she should have, like a car or go to college or those things. They were getting money paid by social services too. They were getting $5,000 a month because they were adopted parents. The whole thing is tragic. The whole thing is bad because she's now 22. She still doesn't want to do anything with us. We thought at age 18 she would, but she has gone over it. So I know you're feeling, Jan, about losing a child. I lost my 12-year-old daughter who's 22 now. She's alive, but I have nothing to do with her. Now, my boys do see her. I encourage them to do so. Now, Jan says they took her daughter first from me for false allegations about being raped, and they immediately put the same allegations on my son. It was all false. The judge even dropped the allegations. Well, I'm glad the judge was a good judge. Most judges are bad. But San Bernardino child protection system is not good. It's not good. The allegations were made by my family members stating he was at risk. But what about you? Because they were saying you were not protecting your children. That's why they were taken from you. They were saying it. They were saying that. So they were saying that, and that was really, really sad. So that is a hard thing. A hard thing to deal with. And I know that is, Jan, and that is wrong. I don't know if you got yourself an attorney, but you should. As I was talking about, attorneys, an important facet like open heart surgery, because fighting rogue CPS systems, the child protection systems, is like you're Alice in Wonderland. You've fallen in a rabbit hole, you met the Cheshire cat, and the Cheshire Cat's directing you from one room to another room that goes nowhere. And it is really, 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 really sad that that happened to you. And that is really, really wrong, Jan. And it's bad that your family members did that. At any time, did you have a lawyer? Did you get a lawyer? That is so important. Now, I have about 5 minutes left of my show time. I started a few minutes late because I was looking at all the things have changed with my format. I was not prepared. So I have all these videos I can choose from. And I was trying to find out the video that'd be different than what it is there. So I'll have the same thing going at the end of the show. I'll do another video. I'll do another video there too. Now, all y'all in the room that are listening and all my regulars and so forth, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for, for being a part of my podcast, because it is hard when you lose child. It's hard working with Rogue CPS. It is really hard working with Rogue CPS. And whether you're from another country or from the United States, I'm here for you. I have a strong background on life skills, and I can talk about a lot of things. And I want to really help you. I want to make sure that I go over my 5 rules. Now, besides getting an attorney, and before I forget, there's 2 important questions you need to ask. You should get quotes from 3 attorneys. Vincent Davis is one of the attorneys you should consider. And I've already told you he meets the requirements. Now, the first question should be, are you a licensed professional lawyer in the areas of juvenile law, family law, and dependency law? Those are the areas you need to be versed in there, and have won cases against CPS and gotten the children back. If the answer is yes to that first question, you're on the right track. The second question should be, have you ever, when the case is closed, sued CPS and won money back from them? And if the answer is yes, you have found the right attorney to interview. You found the right attorney to interview. I didn't say hire, but to interview them, because it's so important. When you interview them, you ask for references. You ask them for 3 references of people that have been hired you, and so you could talk to those 3 peoples. Also, you need to establish the chemistry between you and the attorney, because if you guys don't gel, it won't work. Now, whether it's a $5,000 retainer or a $50,000 retainer, that's something you have to make a decision about. I can't tell you how much retainer is with Mr. Davis. He gauges his retainer on his location and whether your case has been going on, how long it's been going on, and the difficulty of your case. He will go to Northern California, to Southern California. He will go to other states, but when he goes out of states or out of his area, which is in LA, he's going to ask for per diem, meaning he's going to ask for airfare, ground transportation, and hotel accommodation and food. It's understandable. He's leaving his home. He doesn't have a place to sleep. He leaves his food that he has in his home. He needs a car to drive around from the airport to where the courtrooms are, to the hotel. He needs an airfare to get there, because, driving across country can take days. So in addition to included his retainer will be the money for those things. So if you're locally here in LA County, San Bernardino County, Riverside County, or Orange County, he doesn't have that per diem cost because his fees include the gas for driving his car. He has a home, he has food, and so forth. So if he goes to other places, Northern California, even Southern California, or even the States, he does have those. So with those two questions, and you do the interview with 3 attorneys, you'll be able to determine that. Now, my time is up. I've gone over a little bit over the hour. Again, I want to thank you all, and thank you, Jan. Thank you so much. God bless you for the loss of your 4-month-old child in CPS's hands. That's a horrible thing. And if anybody is listening out there, CPS, you're welcome to call in. I've had a total of 5 CPS people call me here. I've yet to have any policemen call me, but police and fire, police, anybody is welcome to call in if it's about CPS. I'm here to talk about CPS. Now, I'm going to try to end the show with a stream from my attorney. I want to thank you all. I'll be on again tonight, Saturday night, this evening at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's on California. And I'd love to talk to you some more. So please join me. God bless you and keep fighting for your child.
Okay, here's a tip for the jurisdictional hearing, which is generally the second and or the third hearing in a CPS case here in California. At the jurisdictional hearing, the judge must decide if the allegations the social worker has charged you with are true or partially true. If they're not true, the case is thrown out. If they are true, you proceed immediately, in most cases, to the dispositional hearing. Sometimes the jurisdictional and dispositional hearing are done together. But here's the tip. The important tip is before you go to court, maybe a week, 10 days, sit down with your lawyer on the phone, on a Zoom, in person. Come up with a strategy for the jurisdictional hearing. You might want to discuss witnesses that need to be called. You might want to discuss documentary evidence that needs to be subpoenaed. Sit down with your lawyer and make sure that he or she is ready with you for this important jurisdictional hearing.